Obviously, I'm a little greasy. No, I haven't showered yet. So what? Who cares? Have you showered yet? If you did and didn't use Cheeky soap, then it doesn't count. Cheeky's the best soap in the universe. I know, I'm looking disheveled, but what are you? The Mighty Morphin Shower Rangers? I also haven't grown any taller. I'm still short. You want to make a big deal out of that too? Point is, yesterday was a pretty crazy day on Twitch. I think most of you have noticed over the last year or so, I've been very out of touch when it comes to internet creator drama. I haven't been keeping up like I used to, but occasionally I do still dip my toes in sporadically to see what's going on. And yesterday during stream, chat was telling me about two really big things that were happening. The first being a live streamed birth on Twitch. The second being Hassan apparently using a shock collar on his dog on Twitch. Both of these sounded fucking nuts to me, so obviously I looked into them. And I know the Hassan dog stuff is what's blown up the most, but I actually want to start by blabbering about the live birth, because out of the two of these, this is the one I have the least to say with. The Hassan dog one, I'm be yapping. Well, let's start with the live birth, because apparently I've got a very hot take with this. The sentiment across the web, from what I can tell, is people are extremely positive about it, very supportive, and think that it was a wonderful thing. I don't necessarily have that perspective. I'll show you a brief snippet here of what the stream was like with the baby being delivered in front of, like, allegedly, tens of thousands of viewers. I'm seeing numbers that range from 30,000 to 100,000. I think people claiming 100,000 are including all the people that watch partied the birth. Now, I want to be clear, I'm very happy that everything went well with the delivery here. When it comes to home births, I've heard like horror stories and such about things that can go wrong and then not being able to get immediate care that a hospital offers. Like there's just a lot of things that I've read about that can be like disastrous, and I'm super, super relieved that this was not one of those cases. It seems like everything went really smooth, everything went perfectly. A healthy baby was delivered, and I think that is all extraordinary. That being said, I really hate that there has been a complete deterioration of the value of privacy. It seems like people don't want privacy anymore. Like, there is no such thing as like a special moment anymore if you can't monetize it and publicly display it. Something like the birth of your child, to me, would be something that you would want with your closest family, your soulmate. Like, this would be something so personal that you wouldn't want just a bunch of strangers peeking in on. And of course, I'm not her. I am not the family. She can do whatever she wants, but I'm giving you my perspective here, that to me, this seems like a sign of the times where everything needs to be like content brand, content oriented. There's really no other reason to be live streaming the delivery of your child other than the obvious attention it's going to bring with it. And I don't know, to me that just feels so odd and so, I hate using this word, dystopian. That word is like actual fucking like acid leaving my mouth because it's lost so much meaning with how overly it's used, but this feels so dystopian to me. It turns something as sacred as life entering this world into a monetizable spectacle, an event that tons of people were watch partying like it was a fucking football game. So it's not just a baby that might need to be breastfed here. She actually went out and was breastfeeding the entirety of the Twitch ecosystem here with additional views for those streams that were watching and reacting to her giving birth. I just think that is so fucking sad that everything has to be content now. Before that baby can even have its first thought or open its eyes, it's already a piece of content. It's already in the social media chaotic swirl. It's already on camera. And to me, that's just crazy. But to a lot of people, it's not. Which I think is just kind of concerning, that we've deteriorated so much that everything is like expected to be content now. I'm a viewer of this streamer. Why shouldn't I be allowed in the delivery room when she gives birth? In fact, that makes a lot of sense for me to be there, actually. I've watched her streams a lot. I don't know. I just don't like that. Again, I'm very happy that everything went super well here with the actual delivery of the baby, and everything seems to be very healthy, and I think that's great. I just truly cannot agree with the sentiment that this is somehow like a positive thing, because I don't view it that way. Like, to me, this is very clearly content first, like content focused, and everyone can eat. So everyone gets a piece of content to watch this baby being born. I don't know. I don't really like that idea. It somewhat reminds me of a joke I told a while ago about a piece of content about how I should deliver a baby. Like how extreme that would be as like a banger video to deliver someone's baby. It's kind of like that joke, but unironically here. Like it actually happened. Well, of course, not to the level of like some completely unqualified goober like delivering a baby, but just like the act of a child being born into this world immediately becoming a piece of content. I just don't like that. Anyway, though, let's move on to the next subject. This is the one that is by far the biggest from yesterday, and probably one of just the biggest topics in general, which is Hasan and his dog.
But it is emblematic of all of America's much more consequential violence. Okay? It's the same reason as to why America... Kaya, please just fucking go... Just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby. It's just... You're making her stressed. She just literally is so incredibly spoiled from my mom.
Now, for the life of me, like, I cannot understand what he's even upset about in the first place that he starts, like, scolding the dog for. She moved, like, an inch, like, slightly off of that. It's like in a video game, like in Metal Gear Solid, when someone gets, like, a fucking question mark over their head, they're, like, zipping to you immediately. Like, she doesn't do anything, really, other than move slightly. And he is noticeably upset. He is upset about that specifically. Even before this incident, earlier in the stream, he had already, gotten annoyed at her for moving around prior to this.
The absolute worst country on the planet, straight up, bar none, a capitalist shithole. Kaya, now is not the opportunity for you to... Down. The absolute worst fucking place on the planet. Just a horrific...
I think it's pretty clear that the dog moving off of that spot is what's making Hasan annoyed at her. Now, I saw he mentioned place training. Place is an actual dog training thing. And the whole idea behind it is designating a spot in a comfortable location for your pet. For a lot of people, I know it's like their office if they work from home. And Hasan was talking about how that area is her place. And for dog training, place is supposed to be like their happy spot where they are super safe and they feel super secure. And the way training goes with this, at least from everything I know about dog training, now keep in mind, when we first got Tetra, we did do dog training because my grandmother used to live with my parents, and Tetra gets very excited to see people. It's the cutest thing in the world, but she loves to jump on people. And my grandma, living at my parents, when we'd go to visit, or if they came to visit, if Tetra would jump on her, it could cause injury. So we did do dog training in order to learn how to, help with that. We didn't do any, fear training or anything like that with shock collars or whatever, but place was something that we did learn about. And when it comes to place, you do not want to, make it something stressful for the animal, at least in our teachings. It's supposed to be a comforting spot for them, not like a stressful thing where they just go there and fucking blue screen in the brain and just sit there idly comatose. And if they don't, they get punished. So he's calling this her place, but when she's moving from the place, he's scolding her. That's not what we were taught you're supposed to do when it comes to place training. That kind of defeats the purpose of it. I don't know why he would be getting so upset at that, angry at the dog for moving from place. That really does kind of defeat the whole purpose of it. And then, in that clip, it seems like he reaches for something. Like he looks off screen and he extends his arm to something, and then shortly thereafter, the dog yelps in pain, and Hasan turns around and calls her a baby, and then tries to reassure the chat that she is spoiled, and then goes on to say that she's spoiled because his mother lets her, have free roam around the house. Now, he and the community are claiming that he didn't use a shock collar or anything, didn't zap her, fucking Palpatine lightning blast her or anything like that. She got her dew claw stuck on that spot, and that's what made her yelp in pain. I guess quick dog lore breakdown, if you're not familiar with how those creatures function or anything, the dew claw is separate from, like, the paw pad area claws. The dew claw is a little higher up on the leg. And it's an old trait from back way in yesteryear when dogs needed that extra claw. It is just now an evolutionary leftover. It's still present, but it's not something that obviously gets utilized by dogs to the same degree it used to. It is a sensitive area. That is true. If you've ever cut your dog's nails, or if you've ever taken your dog to like a dog salon or something and they like gave your dog a nail trim, you probably noticed that when it comes to the dew claw, they're very, defensive on it, like cautious, because it is such a tender spot. I have watched this clip like fucking 10 or 15 times now. And today I had some friends come in from out of town, so obviously I've been out most of the day at the farm, and this was actually a conversational topic. It's become so big that it was brought up by them. And every single person, and pretty much everyone I've seen online outside of Hassan and Hassan's community, is all saying the same thing. That yes, it looks like the dog does like touch its leg to that spot on the bed, but it doesn't look like it gets caught or anything. So it feels very unlikely that that is what caused the dog to scream in pain. Like, I don't think that's what made Kaya, that's her name, yelp. It doesn't seem to get caught or snagged on anything, and dew claws aren't so sensitive and so tender that even touching them would cause like a panicked scream or anything. Unless she has an injury there, but I don't think Hassan has mentioned that, at least not that I've seen. So it feels to me very unlikely that that's what caused it, based on everything that we can see. Now, initially, even Hassan's community was starting to question, did he just shock Kaya? Did he just use a shock collar on stream? And the clip instantly started going viral, and he kind of downplayed it and shrugged it off as like, oh, a bunch of bad actors attacking me for some fucking phony baloney, barnacles here, unbelievable, this is all a load of fish paste. And instead of doing what I think most people, like not even just streamers, just normal people would do, of like showing, no, look, it's not a shock collar, obviously I didn't shock my dog, he instead just brushes it off saying, nope, it's not a shock collar, you're stupid for thinking that it is. And that's the attitude that his community had as well, like, oh, you must have psychosis if you think it's a shock collar. Which I think is a little odd, because it's the easiest thing in the world to prove, right? You have all these people saying this shit, it's not true. Well, it takes like actually 3 seconds just to unclip that collar and just show like, hey guys, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea here, this is not a shock collar, look, here's what it is, and then explain it. Like, I feel like even a non-streamer, like a complete normie, average Joe Schmo, if you went to their house and saw that happen, or like, hey, did you just shock that dog? They'd be like, oh my god, no, this is clearly a misunderstanding, no, that's not what happened. Like, I feel like most people would be very quick to show you and prove that it's not a shock collar, because it's so quick and so easy to do. And the fact that he doesn't is odd. Like, it is very peculiar. Why wouldn't you in the moment? Like, that's such a natural thing to do, especially for what's easily a slam dunk. Like, you have all these people attacking you, you could easily just come out and fucking slam jam thank you ma'am on them by just being like, nope, it's not a shock collar, look, here you go, the proof is in the pudding, behold. Like, it'd be so quick, so simple, and it would be irrefutable. But that didn't happen yesterday. Instead, it was kind of brushed off as like, you've got to be fucking stupid to think that Hassan would shock his dog on stream, and he just kind of propped it up as like, the only people that would believe this are like bad people in the first place, or like, grifters, this kind of thing. And I just find that to just be so disingenuous, because most people are going to see this and it looks like you shock your dog. Given how annoyed you are with the dog, and right before she yelps out in pain, you roll your eyes, you look at something off screen, you clearly are like, you are reaching off screen, that is very clear, and then the dog yelps while you were still annoyed, and then instead of doing like what I feel like most dog owners would do, would like check to see like, is everything alright? Why'd she just yelp in pain? Instead of doing that, calling her a baby and then mentioning how spoiled she is about roaming the house, like that doesn't compute. If this was her dew claw getting stuck there and then yelping in pain, you would have no idea why she's yelping. Why is your first instinct to call her a baby and then mention how spoiled she is about, your mom letting her roam the house? The response to it just doesn't really seem to make sense if what happened is her dew claw getting stuck there. I just don't see why he would respond that way, like so like aggressive about it. It just doesn't really make sense. Now, a bunch of super sleuths were diving in, like really analyzing frame by frame. Apparently, Hassan has mentioned that she does have like an AirTag on her collar. People also saw like a doohickey underneath the AirTag right before the moment where she yelps, where there's like a green blinking gadget there, a little fucking gizmo. And people were speculating that's probably the shock collar. And now today, Hassan went on stream to show the collar and explain what it is that everyone saw.
This is the one that people are talking about. Okay, this is the one. This is the one that they saw. It has the capacity to vibrate, and that's it. Are you happy? That's it. Good. There's the AirTag. There's the fucking vibrator. It also has a flashlight component to it at nighttime, and it also has a tracker on it when she gets lost. If she were to actually get fucking lost.
So on stream, he was showing that the unit everyone saw is something that can only vibrate, it can't shock. It also has like other things like a flashlight and stuff. And then he went on to explain like why he has a vibrator there for the sake of like training and that kind of thing. Now, since this was a day later, obviously people are going to be wondering, is this real? Like, is he telling the truth? Like, you could have swapped it out. You could have changed out the previous model with one that doesn't have shocking capabilities. Because there are vibrate-only units, and there are some that have vibrate and shock. Something he also mentions that those kind of things do exist. But since this was so far after the fact, people are always going to wonder, well, did he just switch it out? And something else that spawned from this is, it looks like there's tape on it. So when you watch it, and you like pay attention to the actual unit, it looks like there is just some black tape on it. And a bunch of people online started to try and find out what brand this is, because I don't know if I missed it and everyone else missed it, but I don't think he mentioned what model this is, like what brand or what model, anything like that. So people don't know what it is, they're just going to have to like take his word for it that this is a vibrate-only unit, and since there's no visible prongs, you're led to believe that it can't shock or anything. However, there are shock collars that have detachable prongs. In fact, the shock collars we use on Skill Check channel when we play Magic the Gathering and make a misplay and we shock ourselves, you can take the prongs off of those. I think that's a pretty standard feature in a lot of shock collars, I think. So, like, you can just take the prongs off. And when you increase the brightness here, it does seem like there's definitely tape. I've seen this picture floated around a lot, and people believe that they have narrowed it down to a model called the Educator ET400, which seems to match it visually 1-to-1 in all aspects except for the bottom side there, where on the ET400 there are two prongs there, but you can take those prongs off from what I can tell, at least online, and in the Hassan clip, there's a bunch of tape there, which potentially would be there to cover up the holes. I don't really know what else there would be tape there for. I don't really get that. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But of course, I have no way of knowing 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that Hassan shocked Kaya on that stream or anything like that. But based on the old eyeball test, the old smell test, what you can literally see, he is annoyed with Kaya. He expressed it a couple of times, scolded her. He rolls his eyes. He does reach for something off screen. And as he is reaching, it seems like when he finally gets to something, she yelps in pain. And then there's no real, like, concern from him, and instead talks about why she's, like, a spoiled baby. I don't see anything that she could have, like, hurt herself on. It doesn't seem like her dew claw or anything gets tangled up in the bed. So, to me, it feels like it is something he did. Even if it's not a full-blown shock, he didn't get her with, like, a Dungeons & Dragons lightning bolt or anything like that. If it is a vibrate-only unit, I feel like he definitely did press the vibrate in that instance there. I see nothing else that would cause that yelp here from everything that we can clearly see. And if that is the case, and that, to me, that's what it seems like the case is, that's super fucked up. She didn't do anything wrong. I don't think there's anything to warrant him being upset in the first place. And to be upset enough to press a, like, correctional button on that device is so beyond fucked. There was no bad behavior or any kind of correction or punishment needed to be doled out there. All she did was move on the bed slightly, like slightly move off the bed. I think it's super fucked up. But if this is all wrong, it's all a bunch of hooey, and Hassan didn't shock or vibrate or do anything at all here to cause Kaya to yelp in pain, I think A, it would have been very easy to immediately in the moment prove that by just showing the collar, which, again, I feel like is the most logical thing most people would have thought to do. But also, B, I still think all of his, like, anger and, like, annoyance at the dog for moving around off her place is just fucking weird, too. And then, of course, people were mentioning how Kaya's on stream 8 to 10 hours a day, and then just all of a sudden, randomly, he decides to shock her today. Yeah, great story you've got there, Buster. Really shows how stupid everyone's become. Everyone's really fucking dumb to believe in something like this, all just because he hasn't in the past on stream. And then, of course, people take it a step further, saying none of his friends have ever called him out for using a shock collar, thus this has to be a load of, fucking horseradish. I think this is a very weak argument, because I know if Hasan does use a shock collar, he would never let any of his friends see that, because he would know that they would call him out for it and give him shit for it, especially someone like Maya. So they just wouldn't know. Thus, they wouldn't be able to call him out on it or anything like that. And this whole idea of making an assumption based on things that are outside of what is clearly visible here, I think is useless. Just because you haven't seen it in the past on stream doesn't mean it's not something he's done before, or it is very possible this was the first time. That's also very true too. What are his shock collars used for? Training. And what is he currently doing with Kaya, at least based on what I've heard him talk about? Training her, or at least expanding the training on place. So maybe he decided that this might be a good tool to use for the first time. That's also entirely possible. It's not some like far-fetched crazy conspiracies that only haters are drumming up and, falling in line with. It's a very plausible thing based on what is clearly visible in the clips. Anyway, just wanted to blabber about this a bit. I know I've been very out of touch with internet creator drama. I plan to keep it that way. But occasionally, can't help but poke around in a couple of the things going on out there, and yesterday was just a crazy one that I just needed to yap on a bit. That's really about it. So, yeah.